If you were given a $10,000 raise over the last 5 years, would you feel richer? Most families wouldn't. In fact, many families making more money today can afford less than they could in 2020. Now, here's the follow-up question that actually matters. Has your income grown by at least 20% since then? Because if it hasn't, and for most middle-class families in Canada and the US it hasn't, you have effectively taken a pay cut. Not on paper, not officially. But in real life, in real purchasing power, in what your money can actually buy at the grocery store, at the gas station, and on your mortgage statement, you are earning less today than you were in 2020. That feeling you have, the one where you work just as hard, earn more than you used to, and somehow still feel like you're falling behind, is not in your head. It is in the data. Inflation gave millions of families an invisible pay cut. And today, we are going to show you exactly what the data says. This is Minivan Millionaire Plan. Real talk about money for everyday families across North America. Hit subscribe before we dive in. Let's meet the Hendersons. Mark and Lisa Henderson live in Ontario with their 2 kids. Mark works in sales. Lisa is an administrator at a school board. In 2020, their combined household income was $88,000 after tax. They felt okay, not rich, but okay. In 2026, their combined household income is $98,000 after tax, a $10,000 raise over 6 years. That sounds like progress. And on paper it is, but here is what happened to the cost of their life in that same period. Their grocery bill has gone up by over $1,600 a year. Their mortgage carrying costs have increased by thousands. Their car insurance went up. Their utilities went up. Their kids' activity fees went up. Every single line item in their budget costs more than it did in 2020. Not a little more, a lot more. Mark and Lisa earned $10,000 more. But their life costs $14,000 more. They are not imagining the squeeze. They are living it. They don't eat out as much. They think twice before signing the kids up for another activity. They still look at their banking app before grocery shopping. Here is the number at the center of everything. Since 2020, cumulative inflation in Canada has been approximately 19.7%. In the United States, it has been 24.4%. What that means in plain language is this. A basket of goods and services that cost $1,000 in 2020 costs approximately $1,197 in Canada today and $1,244 in the United States. That is not a gradual, barely noticeable drift. That is a substantial, sustained reduction in what your money is worth. Here is what I want you to do right now. Grab your phone, go to your last pay stub or your banking app. Find your monthly take-home income, the amount that actually lands in your account after tax. Now multiply that number by 1.197 if you are in Canada, or 1.244 if you are in the United States. That is what your 2020 paycheck would need to be today just to buy the same things it bought back then. For the Hendersons, their 2020 income of $88,000 would need to be $105,336 today to have the same purchasing power. Their actual income is $98,000. Their personal inflation gap is $7,336 a year. That is the size of the hole in their budget that they did not create and cannot see on their pay stub. Now let's look at exactly where that hole is coming from. And here is the thing that most inflation coverage completely misses. That 19.7% is an average across everything. Some categories went up much less than that. But the categories that middle-class families spend the most money on, groceries, housing, transportation, went up significantly more. The average masks the pain. The specific numbers reveal it. So let's go through the three categories that are driving the Hendersons' $7,336 gap. And very likely, yours too. Groceries. The bill that never stops growing. This is the one you feel most at the checkout line every single week. Grocery prices in Canada are over 30% higher than they were in 2019. Not 19% like the headline inflation number, 30%. Since 2022 alone, just the last 4 years, grocery prices have risen 22%, while overall consumer prices rose only 13%. Groceries have outpaced everything else. In real numbers, a Canadian family of 4 is expected to spend $17,571 on food in 2026. That is almost $1,000 more than last year alone, and over $1,600 more per year than before the pandemic. For the Hendersons, that is $1,600 in after-tax income going directly to food that is not available for anything else. Not investing, not savings, not their kids' education fund, just groceries. The story is nearly identical in the United States. Fresh vegetables alone are 11.5% higher than a year ago. Meat prices have remained stubbornly elevated. The checkout line is where middle-class families feel inflation most personally and most frequently. That accounts for roughly $1,600 of the Hendersons' $7,336 gap. Let's find the rest. Housing, the category that changed everything. If groceries are where you feel inflation weekly, housing is where you feel it every single month for the rest of your life. Shelter costs in Canada have increased by 27.4% cumulatively since March 2020. That is the steepest sustained increase in housing costs in a generation. For renters, it shows up as higher rent every time a lease renews. For homeowners who bought before 2020 and have a fixed rate, it has been more insulated. But for families who bought in 2021, 2022, or 2023, or who are renewing a mortgage today at rates dramatically higher than their original rate, the monthly payment increase has been staggering. Consider the Hendersons. They bought their home in 2021. Their original mortgage rate was 2.1%. When they renewed in 2025, it came up at 4.8%. On a $550,000 mortgage balance, that difference adds over $800 to their monthly payment. That is $9,600 a year in additional housing costs from interest rate change alone, before accounting for any increase in property taxes or utilities. Their paycheck went up $10,000. Their housing costs went up $9,600 in one line item. That accounts for the majority of the Hendersons' inflation gap right there. And for millions of Canadian and American families who are renewing mortgages or signing new leases right now, this is the single most painful financial reality of the past 5 years. Transportation, the hidden category. This one surprises most people because it does not have the same headline visibility as groceries or housing. But transportation inflation has been significant for middle-class families. Car insurance premiums across Canada and the United States have risen sharply, in some provinces by 20 to 30% over the past 3 years. Used car prices surged during the pandemic and have remained elevated. Fuel costs fluctuate but trend higher. And for families who need to replace a vehicle, the average new car price in Canada is now over $50,000. For the Hendersons, their car insurance went up $480 a year. Their fuel costs are higher. Their older vehicle needs replacement soon. And what cost $32,000 in 2019 now costs well over $40,000. Transportation is silently taking a larger share of their income every year without making a single headline. Add it all up, groceries, housing, transportation, and the Hendersons' $7,336 personal inflation gap is accounted for almost entirely by three categories. Three categories they cannot opt out of, three categories that are non-negotiable parts of raising a family. 53% of Canadians say their household income is not keeping pace with inflation. And 25%, 1 in 4, say they cannot pay at least one bill in full every month. These are not people who are irresponsible with money. These are not people who bought too much house or eat out too often. These are working families doing everything they were told to do. And the math still does not work because the cost of a middle-class life has grown faster than middle-class wages for the better part of 5 years. So what do you actually do about this? 3 specific moves, not platitudes, not stop buying lattes, not generic budgeting advice. Because the truth is this, you cannot coupon your way out of a $7,000 inflation gap. At some point, both sides of the equation matter. You need to spend smarter, yes. But eventually, your income has to grow too. Let's start with the things you can control today. Move 1. Plug the leaks. Inflation hits hardest on the money that quietly leaves your account every month. Insurance, subscriptions, phone plans, internet, streaming services, gym memberships you forgot about. Most people haven't shopped their car insurance in years. Most people are paying for at least one subscription they barely use. Most people have never called their internet provider and simply asked for a better rate. A single afternoon reviewing your fixed costs and making a few phone calls can realistically recover $50 to $100 a month. That's $600 to $1,200 a year. No, it doesn't solve a $7,000 gap. But if your boat has a hole in it, the first step isn't rowing harder. It's plugging the leak. Move 2. Inflation-proof your grocery bill. The families handling food inflation best are not the ones who stopped eating well. They're the ones who got more intentional. Buying proteins in bulk when they go on sale and freezing them. Using store brands where quality is nearly identical. Planning meals around what's on sale instead of deciding at the grocery store. Reducing food waste. The average Canadian family throws away roughly $1,500 of food every year. That's almost an entire month of groceries. The combination of a few small changes can realistically save $100 to $150 a month, $1,200 to $1,800 a year. The problem is that your cost of living has simply grown faster than your income, which brings us to the third move. Move 3, grow your income. This is the lever that gets talked about the least and often matters the most because there is a limit to how much you can cut. There is no limit to how much you can earn. Maybe that means asking for a raise. Maybe it means switching jobs. Maybe it means taking on a side project. Maybe it means developing a skill that pays more over time. And while you're doing all of that, protect your investing habit. This one is incredibly important because inflation isn't just making life more expensive. It's also quietly eroding the purchasing power of every dollar sitting in cash. The families that come out of this period strongest won't necessarily be the ones that earn the most. They be the ones that kept investing consistently through it, even if the amounts were smaller. A family that stops investing entirely is making a decision that can compound in the wrong direction for years. Keep something going, even if it's $100 a month, even if it's $50. The habit matters more than the amount right now.